And absolutely, yeah, you guys, I think it's the 31st largest asteroid in game. So there's
Yeah.
250,000 asteroids. You guys own number
Mhm.
31. So that's
Wow.
a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is influence, and
Mm.
what's cool about it? It's a space strategy MMO.
Mhm.
It's the story of influence. I'll take a little bit of time with this question because I really like it.
Yeah.
Um, the Earth was
Sure.
a dying planet, and humans were essentially forced to leave. This wasn't due to any otherworldly event. It was mostly just overpopulation and lack of resources that led humans to leave. And so they built a fleet of what they call generational ships, which can house between 10 and 15,000 people. After finding a planet which they think could sustain life, so they all get into shuttles. They go up to the space station and they get into their generational ship to set off on this 150-year long journey. So anyone who's entering these ships, we're not going to be the same people that actually arrive in their final destination. That's why they're called generational ships. So
Mhm.
our story starts by following the ship, the Arvad. The Arvad goes on, and it's making its way to the planet where everyone else is going, and due to a anomaly, they are pulled off course, and they don't have the fuel to make it back in the same direction to where everyone else is. And so they're forced to search the stars for a new home. And in a
Mhm.
last ditch attempt, they set their eyes on a star system called Adalia. And so
Right.
150 years later, they arrive in Adalia, and they find out that all five planets that they were hoping one would be habitable are not. But they find that the asteroid belt, where
Mhm.
our game begins, has all the necessary
Resources.
components to
Right.
support life. And so
Ah.
that's where the game begins. You guys will all start on
Mhm.
the asteroid, Adalia Prime, the largest asteroid in the game. That is kind of
Mhm.
where the story begins. And this is where you will start to build a colony and try and thrive. So, this game itself is really, it's a game of economies. It's a game
Yeah.
of materials and supply and trade. And so you will utilize, PathDAO's asteroid as a hub of commerce, and you will mine resources from the ground. You will build infrastructure. You'll build ships, and you'll trade on these asteroids for the materials that you need to build what you'd like to build. There are a few phases of our game. Our first one is exploitation, which is building, flying your ship, marketplaces, really the whole economy, and it's still a very very immersive and fun game. And then comes along discovery, our second release,
Yeah.
which will have very deep technology and skill trees. So
Mhm.
each class, there are five classes in this game, will then have a very deep skill tree, and then all the components and ships and technology that can be discovered will, be expanded by a lot in discovery. And then conflict, our third release, is when PvP battle happens. So,
Wow.
this it's quite a large game here that we're building, and so we're breaking up in
It's
steps,
so
not
cool.
because
Yeah.
when you start a colony in space, you need
Mhm.
time to build the economy. You can't implement combat on day one, because in a play and earn game, if people were to lose their ships in battle on day one, it would be really hard to recover from that type of loss. And so you need to
Yeah.
spread out the way that this game is built, in order
Mhm.
that to make it so when conflict is released, that there's a very robust economy and network of
Right.
trade, so that if your ship is destroyed in combat, then you are able to go to a marketplace and pick up the materials to rebuild or be able to mine them yourself with the infrastructure that you have. So it's a very, very interesting game that has a lot of depth to it, and I think people are really, really going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I could talk about it all day. I'm it's my passion here, but
Yeah.
I'll move on from this question so that you can follow up with some of your own.
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, after hearing your explanation, I think this game sounds super cool, and space exploration has really a lot of potential. And um, I wonder what inspired your team to come up with such a cool concept, to do space exploration and having this kind of dynamic story behind the game itself. Yeah.
Yeah, the where this game came from is actually
Yeah.
one of my favorite stories.
Mm,
Chris, our founder,
okay.
he played Eve Online for a very long time.
Mm,
He also is, well, he has been in the past the CTO or the VP of technology in most of the companies that he's worked for, and he's worked for four startups that have been successfully acquired. So he has a
mm,
really good track record there. But he was playing Eve religiously. He probably put in 5 to 8 hours a day, and he helped start an alliance called the Test Alliance. And this is one of the largest alliances in the game at the time, at least. And he was in charge of their finances. So he
wow.
was dealing with about $1 million worth of in-game currency every month.
Mhm.
And he realized that he was putting all this work into it. He had, hundreds of spreadsheets. He was talking to players every day, and he was managing this alliance, but he didn't get anything for it. There was no, value in it for him, and he realized that games that didn't reward people for what they, are putting into it really felt a little lacking, almost abusive
Mm.
of their players. And it doesn't work in every type of game, but with an MMO, these
Oh,
types of systems are really, really important, we think. So, and this is all the way back in 2012. Chris had this idea, and back then there,
right.
you know,
Mm,
play to earn, play and earn. They
mm,
they weren't even possible back then. It really wasn't something that could be done from a technology standpoint. And so Chris taught himself Solidity, the programming languages or
right.
language for Ethereum, in 2017, and knew that the game would be built on blockchain because that was just the best possible solution for it. But the scaling technologies for Ethereum still had not caught up yet. So this year
Mm,
is actually the first year that we're able to really build this game. This is a long time making. We are not trying to build this game because of the hype around blockchain. We are just a bunch of space nerds and technology lovers that want to create a more equitable, and fair system for all players.
mm, okay, that's very cool. And the next question, okay, since you actually talk about play to earn, right? I think the most anticipated question would be how do users actually play to earn from influence? How do they earn from playing the game? Can you tell us more about how to earn from the game? Yeah. Hey, John, you still there? Hey, John. We can't hear you. Or is it my problem? Can anyone hear John? Or can anyone hear me?
Are you able to hear me?
Ah, yeah, yeah. We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, the push to talk button, I have to actually go into chat and press the button for some reason.
Oh,
uh,
okay.
but no worries. Sorry, for
Mm. You
everyone.
have my question, right? You got my question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So,
cool.
how do you earn in this game? Well, one thing is we call this game a play and earn game rather than a play to earn game. And the reason
Right.
we make that distinction in terms of the name of the nomenclature of our game is that games like Axie, while they're
Mhm.
extremely powerful in what they've done to bring to the space, people really only play it to earn rather than playing it for it being a really, really fun game. So
That's
we're
right.
trying to build a game that gamers will also enjoy and play,
Mm-hmm.
along with people who want to just simply play it to earn. So with that
Right.
said, how do you earn in this game? So the first way you can earn sway is by extracting resources and building goods to sell at the marketplace. So when you put it on the marketplace, it becomes part of a liquidity pool, and then you're going to earn a percentage of the fees that are generated from people purchasing those goods, similar to lending in a Uniswap liquidity pool. The second one, which PathDAO, the actual DAO and ownership of the 31st largest
31st.
asteroid,
Yeah.
is going to manage a marketplace. You guys will build a
Wow.
marketplace, and you guys will
Oh,
capture about 1% of all of the transactions that
transaction.
flow through
All
your
right. Mm.
marketplace. So,
Oh, that's really
it's
cool.
at this point, you're not so much trying to make each item sell for more. You're just trying to make a lot of goods flow through your marketplace. And so, as a DAO, you guys will
Right.
work together to try and make your marketplace competitive, and then you can capture those fees. And because you are a DAO with your own token, you can
Mm-hmm.
incentivize people however you would like to increase the amount of trade that flows through your marketplace. So that's the second way. And then the third, which is my personal favorite and unique to, I think this game in terms of how we kind of go about doing it, but we are leasing the plots of land on the asteroid. So you guys owning your asteroid have thousands upon thousands of plots of land. One plot of
Mm-hmm.
land is the area in which you can build one building. So
Right.
if I believe your asteroid has somewhere like around 60,000 plots of land. Um,
Wow. To be
we
leased
think,
out? Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, so you can lease all those out. An average
Okay.
player is probably going to use between 25 and 50 plots of land. So you're looking at a minimum of 1,000 players on your
Mm-hmm.
asteroid, and that
Mm-hmm.
would be conservative, and probably up to 2,500 or so people on that asteroid. So you'll be able
Okay.
to sustain a lot of people, and they all
Mm-hmm.
agree to leasing terms. So you can rent out that spot for whatever the competitive price is, at the
Okay.
time. Just like you renting a home in real life,
Okay.
prices can fluctuate, but
Oh,
it
wow.
should always be competitive in terms of the best deal for the players.
Can I
And
even sell the plot apart from
so
renting, right? Can I sell the plot?
no, you aren't able to
Mm.
extract it out that far and just sell the plots of land.
Okay.
You could
Mm-hmm.
do a very long-term lease. Maybe you wanted to
Okay.
just do a 5-year lease, and you just collect
Mm.
whatever that would mean for your players there. So that's the other one. And then there's you know taking advantage of arbitrage. If you guys are not familiar of arbitrage, all markets have this. It's where a price of a good fluctuates between two different marketplaces. And
Mm-hmm.
so you might find in this game steel bars, or maybe a component for a ship is priced at 1,000 sway at one marketplace, and then maybe
Yeah.
it's 1700 sway at another marketplace. So you have a difference of 700 sway there. And so you, having a ship, can purchase that item from that one
Yeah.
marketplace and then fly it over to the other one and put it in there at the premium.
Oh.
And then you are able to capture that value of the difference between, the pricing through liquidity pools. And so it's really interesting that
Very interesting.
this is
Yeah.
this is decentralized finance that you've heard probably a lot about in the world of blockchain. But instead of trying to think about it in terms of like money and finance, you get to think about it as I'm a person who travels the Adalia asteroid belt in a ship, and I find opportunities to capture more value through purchasing goods that other people want in the belt. And I just think it's a lot of fun because it makes
It is.
it extracts away kind of the, oh, I'm just doing this for the money. Like, this is actually going to be fun. You can be like a freighter in this, a ship freighter
Yeah.
in this game,
Yeah.
and choose what you'd like to do. So those are the basic ways to earn sway. There will be activity incentives as well, and so the team will put out likely weekly or monthly incentives saying like, if you do X, you will earn sway. And so we'll shift those incentives, pretty often so that people, one, cannot game it. We don't want to have a ton of bots being built in this game that take advantage of an unlimited, activity incentive, but also so that, the what happens in the belt is constantly shifting. So people who are mostly, let's say, good shippers, they're the mailmen of the belt, may be prioritized in one activity, whereas another one might prioritize mining. So there's going to be different things that you'll be able to do in this game, and everyone will be able to fairly earn while playing this game.
This is really cool concept. So it's just like how we flip NFTs, right? We got it cheaper from say one seller and try to sell it at another marketplace for a higher value and earn that difference, right? This is very, very cool concept. Yeah. Okay, so John, what about the utility of Suede tokens? So you mentioned that Suede token will be the only in-game currency, right? So is there any other planned utilities for Suede token?
Yeah, so I mean, Sway is really what we call like the on-ramp and off-ramp to the game. Everything in game will be done through Sway rather than
Okay.
having to use Ethereum, things like
Yeah.
that. And there's a lot of reasons why is that then you're not having to understand what the price of Ethereum is at any given point. You can enter the game, you have your Sway, you play, you trade, you buy, you sell. Everything is done in Sway. So it makes the game really easy. If you've played World of Warcraft, you've got gold. That's our gold. Sway is our gold. This is
Right.
still a ERC 20 token, so you are able to convert it into any cryptocurrency that you want, or then fiat currency. So it's the on ramp and off ramp of the game. Now
Right.
we also will have a utility token. So we've got
Okay.
Sway, and then we will also have the governance token, INFL. And this is going to come later. This will not be released on day one. We are going to ensure that the distribution of our token is very carefully crafted in terms of governance. And one thing that our game prides ourselves on is that we really, really want to listen and reward community, and listen to and reward community. So we don't want, someone to be able to game our system and, earn a much overabundance of tokens for something that they didn't really do. So if you're a player in this game, you've worked really hard, you've leased some plots of land, you're going to be able to get, tokens. You're going to be able to get governance eventually. And then, owners of asteroids who have been managing their asteroids and they've been active in game, again, you're going to be able to access the ability to get tokens. Now, I can't go into exactly how we're distributing or how much people are getting, because that's still quite far down the
Yeah.
line. And I also, just for legal reasons, can't go too much into it. But back to Sway. Sway is our in-game currency. That's what you're playing with every day, and the distribution of that is largely around the activity incentives, and then the money really flows, or the in-game currency Sway flows from peer to peer rather than game to player. So you guys aren't constantly having to go to a marketplace to purchase Sway from the team to then play the game. This is not a traditional economy in that terms. This is where money trades hands in game between players and players, and then influence the team. Where how do we sustain ourselves? How does the team earn money to develop the game? Well, that we take a percentage of every trade that happens throughout the entire game. And so we're able to capture that small percentage throughout the belt to be able to then fund further development of the game.
Right. Very interesting. So, John, so I did a bit of research about Sway tokens, right? So, I think I read somewhere saying that there will not be any private sales or outside investors that can actually purchase Suede token. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're not having any pre-sale allocation to anyone. So
Right.
there is going to be an initial seeding of Sway throughout the entire economy, and that'll be partially by ownership, partially by play. A big part of it is going to be during the first few months of the game. We will have a massive stimulus of Sway that will be pumped into the economy through playing. So if you're early and you're listening to this AMA right now, like make sure you get in on day one and like play, because we were trying to get it as much Sway into the community's hands, because then it can transfer from player to player without having to come from us. And then a really interesting part of our tokenomics and economy is that as people play and the community grows and people are having fun in this game, we're able to actually gauge how much activity is in a automated way and be able to push more Sway, new Sway, so Sway that did not exist, let's say a month ago. We'll take a look at how much activity happened that month, and then a new amount of Sway will be released. So that is inflation to the token, but it's comparable to how much activity and new players are in the game. And this is actually a good thing because it keeps the price of Sway stable. And in a
I think
game
that's
like
a brilliant strategy.
and in a game like this, it's really important to have a more stable. It's not a stable coin, so it will fluctuate, but we're trying to take off the peaks and valleys, trying to keep it, as even as possible. Because when you're playing your game, if you, let's say today a bar of steel is 10 Sway. If tomorrow a bar of steel is 15 Sway, no one wants to play this game because you're constantly trying to like figure out how much money do I need to buy this item, and that's no fun. So we're trying to make Sway as stable as possible, and that's why we actually have separated out to have a second token, the INFL governance token, because the speculation, now we're not saying it's speculative, but the price of a governance token is going to fluctuate a lot more than our in-game currency.
Right. I understand. I think the design is brilliant. I mean, having this thought to make the coin stable is really, really a very important and crucial consideration, I would say. Okay, so basically one of our members asked in the chat just now, is it free to play, John? Is the game free to play at the moment?
So we're trying to make it as free as possible. The continued play, the continued play of the game does have network costs. This is a game built on Ethereum and then scaled with Starknet. So transactions in game will they will cost a small amount, but we're hoping that a very, very casual player will be able to offset any cost to playing with what they're earning.
Okay.
And then if you are a player that is more serious and you spend a good amount of time and you're good at this game, then you will be able to earn much past what is required to pay the transaction fees on the network. Now,
Right.
is there a cost to start playing this game?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's very, very low. So you do need to have what is called a crewmate. Your crewmate is, your in-game character. You can have up to 5 at any given time being played. So you have a crew. If you think about any space movie, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything, you always imagine, a crew of people at the front of the ship. And so in our game, it's the same. You will have 5 people that you can utilize as your team or your crew in this game, and those will cost a few dollars per crewmate. Now you can just play with 1. You don't have to have 5. You can just have 1. But the reason why there is a cost there, and the only reason why, is that if we made it free, what would happen is people would bot our system. They would mint hundreds, thousands, millions of these things, and there would be no stopping it. So, we have to put a cost on that, a few dollars, which just prevents bots. Now, what we're likely going to see is, with PathDAO, let's say it's $5 for a crew member, and you have 1,000 players that want to play on your asteroid. You guys can choose if you want. This is an option. Is like, as an incentive, hey, lease land on our asteroid for a minimum of 3 months, and we will provide you with the first crew member. And so if you guys do that, then it's going to be a lot easier to get people onto your land. And that is where the game's competitiveness and marketplace, supply, trade, everything kind of begins, because you can try and incentivize things as much as you can to get people on your land, because the most important thing is to have your land active. You don't want it just sitting there empty. So we do think that a lot of DAOs will likely, buy the first crew member for their players if those players are in an area where a few dollars is actually a lot of money for them. So this is something for, people like me, where I live in Nevada. I can put a few dollars into a crew member and it's totally fine, then I'm off to playing. But other people, that might be harder. And so we are going to try and do as much as we can to get the players that cannot afford that into this game easier. So please be on the lookout too. Anyone who's here is early. I can't guarantee you guys anything, but I'll drop a hint and say there might be an opportunity to get your first crew member for free here in a little bit.
Maybe John, you should tell us what are the incentives for early adopters or early players. Maybe drop a bit of hint, to our community members.
Yeah, like I said earlier, when we first start the game, we have to get a lot of sway into the system, and we want to do it as fast as possible. So there will be activity incentives that are a little bit more juicy in rewards early on.
That's the word they like.
Yeah. So I would just say, on day 1 of release, be ready. Have some fun in the game. Play.
Be on day 1.
As simple as other games. This is not a auto battler. This is not Pokemon. This is not, just a point click game. This is an economy game. So there is depth to it. So there's going to take some time and experimentation to figure out how to, what works for you in this game. So there are 5 different classes in this game. There is pilot, miner, merchant, engineer, and scientist. So you have these 5 different types of characters that you can play in this game. And with that, you can have unique play experiences. So if you just want to be a miner where all you do is mine resources, and then maybe you give those to someone who likes being the mailman of the system, then all you could do is mine. And then someone else, all they might do is fly. And then someone else,
Right.
all they do is look for opportunities on the marketplace to make, a trade, an arbitrage
The
opportunity.
trader. Yeah.
Or
Okay.
you do all of those things.
Right.
This game is a real digital economy. So when you think about get up in the morning and you have a job, what do you do on that job? Well, what does the person next door to you in the next house do? They do something different. So in this game,
Okay.
you're going to be able to specialize in what you like. Now, in the release of exploitation, scientists and engineers, they won't have access to really deep technology yet. So this is one thing to know is any of the classes can do everything. So if you have a scientist, they can fly ships, they can mine, they can build. You don't have to worry about, oh, I have a scientist, I can't do certain things. You have access to everything. It's just when discovery is released and the specialization begins, that is when you're going to want to make your choice of who is my captain. Out of my 5 crew members, you can have a captain, and you'll really want to understand what do you like doing in the game at that point, because you'll be able to then specialize. And I didn't mention this, but this is honestly what I'm most excited about in this game. Like, I think it's the coolest feature of all time. There are no computer players. There are no NPCs in this game at all. So what does that mean for us? That means everything has to go through players. So when you want to learn something, when you want to discover something, when something in game is new, that will come from a player. That won't come from a computer that you walk up to and say, teach me this thing. So what's cool about that is you might be a scientist in this game when Discovery is released, and you might discover a very, very powerful, let's say, nuclear reactor that powers ships better than anything that's on the market. Well, when you discover that, you get to choose. Do you want to keep it for yourself and just build them and sell them in small quantities and profit from that? Or do you want to sell the blueprints of this so that you can now seed that type of item to the entire community? Or what do you want to do? So it can be this really interesting thing where PathDAO as an alliance in this game could hoard technology and try and keep it for themselves as long as they can to gain a competitive advantage. But then you're going to start having people in this game from other alliances that are possibly angry at you. They're like, we want this technology, share it with us. And so because this game, you want to there will eventually be combat, there's an element of balance. So you guys will have to figure out what's the best way forward in terms of getting technology out there, having unique structures and buildings. And when you craft a ship and you're a scientist, there's going to be the ability to then unlock new features, new things that have never been seen before, just by simply crafting that item. And what's cool about that is your stuff will then be more unique, and you will have the ability to choose again what you want to do with it. Do you want to release that technology to others, or do you want to try and use it to your advantage for as long as you can without getting too many negative enemies around you because you're hoarding technology? So I'm just super excited about a game that doesn't have any NPCs.
You're making me really excited about the discovery phase and also the combat phase of the game. Can you tell us what is the timeline like for this different phases of the game?
Yeah, so exploitation, we are targeting end of quarter one, 2022. this year, or sorry, not this year, but this coming year. It's coming. The new year's coming up fast, and
Yeah.
so with that too, like when I say we're targeting end of quarter one 2022, we are really trying to release the game end of quarter one 2022. But there's a lot of new technology that we're working with, and so that date is, it's slightly flexible. It could be earlier, it could be a
Okay.
little later. We're working with timelines right now. And then discovery, their discovery will be 1 year after, and then conflict
Okay.
will likely be that amount of time as well. So overall, the releases are 1 year spread, and the reason is that, again, the first one, you need to establish economy so that you can support a robust player base. The second one, technology, or discovery, will really make people specialize so that you'll have a very diverse community at that point. And then conflict is when things get like really, really, intriguing in terms of like what will happen from day to day, because you might log in and all of a sudden see 1,000 ships heading in your direction, and you're going to be either on the conflict side of that, or hoping that they're flying past your asteroid and not trying to attack you.
Okay. Oh, that's a really interesting game. Actually, we have a comment from one of our members. I'm really curious who designed the tokenomics, because they're really good at mirrors of real-world monetary mechanisms. So yeah, John, who designed the tokenomics? Is it a team's work or?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, like 95% of it came
Mhm.
from Chris, our founder.
Oh,
He
wow.
honestly, Chris is like a mad genius. He's,
It is, yeah.
he initially designed the entire ecosystem of the game. He
Mhm.
designed what he wanted the game to look like and function like, and he designed all the
Mhm.
tokenomics. And this is, you know, and he's programming all the smart contracts. So,
Oh, wow.
it's been a lot of fun taking it from where he is the
Mhm.
mastermind behind everything, and then getting now a team around us to be able
That's it.
to,
Yeah.
specialize in what we're actually doing. Now we have multiple developers, we've got multiple designers, we've got multiple artists, we've got a community. So we're starting to be able to, take Chris's baby and share the workload there.
That's true. All right. Okay. I think we have actually quite a lot of questions from the community. Um, okay, so we actually reached 40 minutes. So shall we actually open the floor to some questions? Let me just go back to some of the questions that they asked, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries at all. Take your time.
Okay, sure. Okay, this question is quite interesting. So, can you give us some examples of how you're gonna add tokens to the economy in case if the token price is rising too fast, in the beginning?
Sorry, you were a little broken up there. Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sure. So, can you give us some examples of how you're gonna add tokens to the economy in case you see the token price rise too fast?
Yeah. So, how I kind of explained our economy is slightly
Mm,
automated in terms of inflation, and then being able to address either price increases or activity lowering, meaning prices lowering. So, how that would work is, let's say I'm just going to use an arbitrary number. Let's say one token of Sway is 10 cents. We'll keep it simple.
mm,
At 10 cents, there's 1,000 players playing the game, and everyone's, trading and moving their Sway around, because they're building things, they're buying things, whatever it is. At that point, let's say all of a sudden there's another 1,000 players that come into the game really quickly, and so that same supply of Sway is now, split between a lot more players, which would then cause the price to rise. Well, what we do is we would gauge the amount of activity that is happening in the game at that time and release a new amount of sway, like completely new sway that didn't exist before, into the economy, so that then that amount is fairly even with the activity of the players. Now, that also leaves the question of what happens if all of a sudden we have a slow period of time and the price is falling? Well, at that time, we're able to not release any sway so that you're not causing inflation in a shrinking economy, which would then stabilize the price to a certain degree. And if it becomes really bad, which, our hope is our player count doesn't all of a sudden drop by half, that's no fun. But if, let's say, that were to happen, the percent of sway that our team is able to capture through every transaction, we can then hold it. So we are able to then kind of hold that into a pot and not put it out into the economy for some time. Now, this is not a burn mechanism. The sway still exists, but then we can choose the right time for our team to put it back into the economy, to sell it, to pay for development, things like that. So we have a lot of ways to protect the fluctuation and volatility of sway. And I think this is a really, really powerful economic system. We've had a lot of people look at this. People like YGG, I'm pretty sure Gabby Dizon had looked at it. A lot of people have peeked on at our tokenomics, and most of them are quite intrigued. Now, this is a new tokenomics model, so there is going to be some time to figure out the best way to utilize the pulleys and levers that allow us to inflate the economy when needed and not inflate it. But we have the ability to tweak it, and our team only succeeds if our game is successful. So we have no reason to want to screw over the community, because when we screw over the community, we're really just screwing ourselves. Like we don't want that to happen. So we do have some control, but ultimately, with the governance tokens release, we will slowly start to put the ownership and governance into the players' hands. So ultimately, let's say 10 years down the road, our team, if we are not, producing the content the players want, they can vote on kicking us out and getting new developers. And we're actually really excited about that, because this is what we want. A decentralized, peer-to-peer economy where players who play the game also have ownership. And we're just really excited about that.
I see. I'm actually intrigued by the mechanism that you just mentioned. It's not a burning mechanism, but a much more sophisticated one, right? So, and the fact that you mentioned that your team are actually looking forward to having the DAO to actually, decide the fate of the game. It actually, I'm actually very impressed. Yeah. And okay, so the next question is actually very interesting. So this one is by Aru. So basically he asked, does the team have a goal to make the earnings of this game better than Axie Infinity?
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
Does your team have a goal to make the earnings from Influence better than Axie Infinity?
Yeah. So, I personally don't like talking about trying to dethrone the king. It's like, Axie has done so much for the space, and our game is still really new. There is a lot that we still have to prove, and so I don't like to say that we're better than anyone or worse than anyone. We are just we're doing our own thing, and we're hoping to be very successful. And we do think that our game is going to be quite successful. And one of the big reasons why we think we'll be successful is, one, MMOs. People love playing MMOs. They get lost in them. And because we're making a game that people want to play, that are normal gamers, not just play to earners, you'll have a much more sustainable economy long term, because you will have money flowing into the game from people, let's say like me. I put about $10 a month into the video games that I play. And when I'm doing that in this game, I'll be giving that $10 pretty much directly to another player or players that I'm trading with. And so because that money is flowing from player to player, it's a lot more sustainable, because in Axie, this is something that most people who study games like we do will already know. But if you look at the price of SLP, it continues to fall. It's been falling for quite a long time. And the main reason for that is that no one's putting money into the game. This is they made a game that's play to earn. And when you play to earn, you're extracting value from it, and people aren't putting value back into it. And so that long term is difficult. And you've seen the Axie team, and now I'm hoping they're very successful still and continue to build on this, but they are addressing this. They've lowered the amount of PvE and increased the rewards for PvP, because they realize that PvE type of mechanic, people will just grind and be able to take as many tokens as possible, and you're not really giving anything back to the game. So when you break it down, there needs to be winners and there needs to be losers. That is how games work. You've never played a game where everyone wins all the time. And so with this game, what we believe is being part of an alliance and working together on common goals, then you guys will be able to push forward and do well. But there will be times where, you need to buy some things. You want to upgrade. You want to get to that next level. And in order to do that, you're going to have to put some time, effort, and sway into pushing yourself to the next level. And that's okay, because when you do that, it's, a choice to try and get yourself to that next tier. If you have, let's say, 2 extractors mining, but and you're making, I'm just making up numbers. These don't mean anything. But let's say you're making 100 sway a day by selling the goods that you're mining with 2 extractors. Would you like to make more? Okay, well, hold some of that for a while, build 2 more extractors, and then all of a sudden you've compounded, and it's you're able to do this. So this game is quite deep, and there's a lot going on, but we think that everyone who plays it and enjoys it is going to just really, really, really get lost in how fun it is to play this game. And then the side effect is that you're earning sway. So it's not a bad way to be.
I mean, I like the fact that you guys are so smart, because the key thing with play to earn game is really sustainability. Like Axie, like what you mentioned, Axie is probably not going to be sustainable in the long run, but with the kind of tokenomics and economy that you have in your game, it's going to be a more sustainable ecosystem, I would say, with people pumping money into the game and people extracting value from the game. So I think the design is brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. We still have to prove ourselves. It's not out and playable yet, so lots to do. We're building the game. We really, really, really appreciate PathDAO's trust in us and wanting to, be a large owner in this game in terms of landmass. I mean, you guys own an actual percentage of the entire belt, which is quite cool.
Thank you so much. I mean, we are stoked, to own a marketplace in your game. I think that's really, really exciting as well. Okay, we have a few more questions, John. I hope you don't mind me. Can you just answer the last few questions for us from the team?
Yeah, I've got about 10 more minutes.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, this next question is okay, if you were to play the game yourself, right? What would be your strategy? You know?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So I have a long history of playing the weirdest like combination
Mhm.
of things in games. I've never played a
Mm,
game to be the best. I've always played a
okay.
game for the fun. So
Mm-hmm.
my idea, and I was laughing about this with some friends, was if it were possible in
Yeah.
game, I, I would be a tour guide. I would give
Tour
people
guide. Okay.
like, hey, you're new to the game and you want to see how this game works. Come on my ship. Uh, give me like I need 50 sway to get on board, and I'll take you to all the
Okay,
fun
that's
places.
nice.
But
Okay.
this is probably not a sustainable way to play for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm being realistic, and what I would probably do is after Discovery is released, I think I would be a
Okay.
scientist. I really like the idea
Mm-hmm.
of unlocking new technology that I can then share with the entire game. That just sounds really
Right.
cool to me. But
That's
in the
nice.
release of exploitation, oh, I'm
Mm.
gonna be a miner, for sure. I'm gonna just have fun mining resources and trying to craft some cool ship components and be able to put those on the marketplace, I think.
Okay. So let me conclude. So in the beginning, be a miner first, and then transform to tour guide, and then eventually become a scientist. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that would be my ideal world for me.
Okay. Okay. So guys, you guys got the strategy, yeah? Just follow John's strategy. Okay.
Well, if I were
Okay.
to advise everyone here in what to do,
Mm-hmm.
again,
Yeah.
this game is going to have a lot of opportunity for everyone to do what they like. But in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the game, if you can start on day one, the entire supply and demand of this game is not already set up. The supply routes are not set up. The marketplaces, the market
Okay.
hubs are not set up. And so you have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity as an early player to help shape the
Mm-hmm.
landscape of what the game will be
Okay.
like in many years from now. And so if you want to be able to be the best at this game, work with your fellow players and try and establish a very robust infrastructure and marketplace. So get on to PathDAO's asteroid as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Start mining and building and making sure that that place is a really fun and welcoming place to where people want to come in terms
Uh-huh.
of playing, but then also have a lot of liquidity of resources on that marketplace. So PathDAO's job is going to be to make sure that marketplace looks attractive, and the
Yeah.
players that are all here should have a interest in wanting that to happen. So play together, get a lot of resources on that marketplace, and try
Mm.
and get people from the belt to come through there. So work with other alliances to establish maybe a trade route. Maybe you guys have access to volatiles and organics, whereas someone else has metals and fissiles. Make an agreement with them. Hey, we'll buy your metals and fissiles if you buy our organics and volatiles. And then all of a sudden it all comes to your marketplace, and you guys will then set up what is a like very popular supply route. So this is the route most people are going to take, hopefully, if you guys are
Mm.
very successful. And then that means there's a lot of sway flowing through your market, and you're able to incentivize your players more and more through the capturing of fees. Yeah, I mean I could go on all day for it, but I'll let you get to the next question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the game sounds really exciting. Really, really exciting. Okay, so the next question, let me just pick from the chat. Um, okay, so this next question is about okay, how will they solve the problem with people not being able to invest because of the large gas fee? Okay, will you guys have a side chain? That's basically the question.
Sorry, say that one more time. You were breaking up towards the middle of that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so the next question is, how would you solve the problem with people not being able to invest in the game because of the high gas fee? Will you guys have a side chain?
Yeah, great question. So yes, we are built on Ethereum, but we're scaling with Starknet. Starknet is a layer 2
Mhm.
solution that is going to be high volume, low fee. So as time goes on, the cost of transactions will actually get lower and lower. So how Starknet works is pretty cool. It's a ZK rollup, and the more
Oh, okay.
transactions that are happening on their platform, the lower the gas fee is, because how you can think about it is if one person is on Starknet and makes one transaction, then it's posted to Ethereum. They're paying the full price of whatever that L1
Mhm.
gas fee is. But if there's 10,000 people on Starknet, they all do a transaction, then it's all lumped in as one posted to L1. And so you're splitting that cost. Let's say it's $10 of that. And now all of a sudden it's split 10,000 ways, and that cost of transaction is much, much lower than if you were to utilize Ethereum. So as we get more and more players, as the ecosystem of Starknet continues to build more and more activity, the cost of transactions will go much, much lower to fractions of cents, hopefully in the future. For now, we're probably, it's uncertain what that transaction fee will be, but we're hoping that it is quite sustainable even at the very beginning of exploitation. So it's not a side chain, it's a ZK rollup, but it acts similarly to what like a side chain will do.
Thank you, John. I think that was the last question. Thank you so much for giving us a great session and explaining about games and how the tokenomics work and also the different phases of the game. So I really enjoyed listening to your explanation about the game, and it made us feel like as if we were in the game already. Thank you so much, John, for your time.
Yeah, of
And
course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys doing this and being part of Influence. So really excited to see your community
yeah,
be part of that. And then if
yeah, surely.
as we release more features in the game,
Mhm.
I will definitely ping you guys. We could do another one of these as it gets closer to exploitation release. But before I go,
Absolutely.
I do want to let
Yeah.
everyone know if you guys are in a position to want to do this on secondary market, we do have crew members that are already available. These are limited edition. These are, I'm not trying to sell you guys on stuff. The reason why I'm telling you guys this is that we have crew assignments that have been released last week. Crew
Mm.
assignments are role playing text based missions that will happen each week. There will be one per week. And
Mhm.
as if you have a character or a crew member, you are able to actually start playing these today. And with that, you'll have a lot of fun in terms of trying to build like a unique storyline with your character. Something that I didn't really mention is that we have a really big love for role playing in this game,
Mm.
being able to take on that character's personality. And so there's a lot of features in this game that you're able to tell story with. So what's really interesting is that you have these characters, you own them. You can also sell these characters, but any event that happens in game, you will be able to go look at that event in your logs, click on it, and be able to type in story. So if you like writing, if you like to tell stories, you will, let's say, make a deal with a merchant to trade your ship components. You can then go into your character's profile and go see when that happened, click on it, and type in a story being like, I, such and such, on this day decided to do this. And you can create a whole backstory and you can keep doing this over time. And so when you are 2 years from now, you will have this massive story built into your character. And, if you become somewhat well known in the belt, then if you want to, I'm not saying you have to, you can sell
Mm.
your character and it might be worth more because of the stories and the embellishments that you've put in. So this is something that I
Oh.
think is quite a fun element to the game that I'm really excited about. And this is our first playable feature. We released it last week. So if you get a crew member off of OpenSea, you will be able to begin doing these each week.
Right. Very interesting. So they can get a crew member now, start play, and then eventually they can even sell off that character. Is that right?
Yeah, and no one should be pressured to buy right now on OpenSea. It's just if you want to. In the new year, we're hoping by end of January, maybe mid-February, we'll have the ability to mint your crew members, any crew member, for that low cost. Right now on secondary, I think the lowest cost is like 0.05 ETH or something. I'm not sure what that equates to, but it's a few $100 right now in terms of getting a crew member. So I'm not saying go do that, but if you want to, it's there and you will be able to start doing those crew assignments.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Sean. Thanks for your time and thanks for the great session.
Yeah, of course. Hey, everyone. Have a great day. And really looking forward to seeing you guys all in the game.
Yeah, look forward to have you here again with us. Right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.